Welcome to my video on how to make a 15-gallon sip pot or wheelbarrow. I have hundreds of fig trees, and for those who have a large garden, you know how much work it takes daily to take care of your garden. And one of the chores is watering. So I have so many fig trees that I had to come up with a way to do that task more efficiently. And one of the ways is I have different types of sip tanks or buckets or pots. And they're all different sizes. The one I'm going to show you today is a 15-gallon. It's on wheels. It is a handle. And I use it for some of my larger trees. So the reasons I use the sip tank or bucket is for a few reasons. One, it's very efficient on watering. It lets me move my large plants around. It's a more efficient way of feeding your plant. And I find that my best plants are the ones in sip buckets or tanks or pots, however big your reservoir is. Some have said that a sip tank is not good for a fig. I have not found that to be true. Again, my best figs are in these sip pots. The reason I use these are for more than just convenience. If you use them correctly, your plant will never be in need of water. It's always going to have a source of water, and it will take it as it needs it. You'll never have to guess if you need to give the plant water. Also, if you use it correctly and you don't overfill your reservoir, it holds the nutrients in and the plant is much healthier. So without getting into a lot of detail, we're just going to go right to it. I'm going to show you how I make this. Here are the tools that you'll need. And here's the soil mix that I use. Here are the items you're going to need to make your 15-gallon sub-irrigated pot, your SIPS container. The 15-gallon sun-cast cart, a 36-inch round piece of landscape fabric, a section of 4-inch drainage sleeve, a 20-inch length 1.5-inch PVC pipe, a cap, 1.5-inch cap that fits over the pipe, a 12-inch piece of 1/2-inch PEX tubing, 3 12-inch zip ties, 2 pieces, each 10 inches long, of 4-inch drainage pipe. And this is drainage pipe with slots in it. And a grommet. And the size of the grommet is 7/8. Alright, so let's start putting it together. First thing I want to show you is that you want to set the cart up on the ground or the floor, wherever you're working. And you're going to measure up from the floor about 4¼ inches to center. That's where you're going to drill the hole that's needed for the drain. And then the other 2 holes, which hold the fill pipe, you just measure down about 2.5 inches from the top rim. Alright, so first we're going to put the grommet in. And it's a little bit of a struggle. It's a tight fit with the measurements I'm giving you, because I want it to be a watertight seal. And to make it a little easier, I just put a little soapy water on the pipe, just to help it slide in there. Okay, so you can just let part of that stick out for now. The next thing I'm going to do is take those 2 pieces of pipe, which are the 4-inch pipe. They're a slotted pipe, not the solid pipe, but they're just the 2 pieces of pipe wrapped with the sleeve. And I'm just going to slide it down here. And I'm going to put one end over that pipe that I just inserted. And stick the pipe the small pipe into one of the holes. and then slide and push this back, push it through right into the pipe. So now I put the zip tie, I close the zip tie, and I put it on the sleeve before I dropped it in here. You could do it either way. I just do it to make it easier so I don't have to wrap the zip tie later. And then I just pull enough of the sleeve through so that it's going to tighten up real nice when I pull the zip tie. So I'm just going to snug it up a little bit now, not all the way, in case I need to make an adjustment. And the next thing I'm going to do is take the fill pipe, which again is cut at a 45 on the bottom, and slide it down in here. And again, I already started this one zip tie. You don't have to do it that way. I take the angled part, and I'm inserting it this way, so that this edge here is going to be facing the center of the bucket. The point faces the center, like this. This just allows the water to flow in easier. That's the reason for the 45-degree cut. Okay, so now I just bring the sleeve up around this pipe. Make sure it's all the way around before you tighten it. And I just pull the zip tie. Alright, so now I take my third zip tie and I bring it through the hole. This just holds the fill pipe in place. I'm just tightening that up. So I'm bringing that in real snug now. As tight as I could get it, because it just holds that pipe in place now. It holds it real snug. Doesn't move around much. Alright. So the purpose of the mesh on the pipes is so that no soil gets down into the system. That remains a water reservoir. If a little soil gets in there, it won't hurt it, but it's to help prevent water getting in there. And I have one more precaution also to help the soil from getting into the reservoir. So now that I have this together, I'm going to finish snugging this other zip tie up for the drainage hole. Here's a cap. The reason I use a cap is because I just don't want any insects going in there. I want to keep the mosquitoes from going in there and laying their larvae. That's the only reason I have a cap on there. So then, here's that landscape fabric. And again, this isn't the non-woven fabric. This is actually a woven plastic. You can see it. It's a woven plastic. It's more of a heavy duty. It's easy to get online. You'll see it on Amazon and many other places. And I just cut a 36-inch circle. That's all it is. It's just a 36-inch circle. And I drop this in here. I use that center line as a little guide to make sure I'm sticking it in the center. Now, until you put the soil in here, it's going to be hard for me to show you exactly how this works. But what you do is you tuck this plastic down as far as you can, and it's going to keep popping up on me because I don't have the soil ready to put in. But you just tuck it down tight, and you make it so that the plastic pretty much is equal around the cart. You can cut it off later if you need to, but if you tuck it the right way, you probably won't need to cut it at 36 inches. So then what you do is you put the soil mixture, which I showed you earlier. I'm showing you one of my favorite mixes. It works great for figs, and you could use it for other things too. It's a great soil mix. And you start filling the soil into the crevices here. You bring it down in here, put the soil in here, put it in the back, bring it in the front, and then you're just going to keep filling that soil all the way up. Now, there's many reasons I use the soil mix. One of it is just a great nutrient mix. It's an extremely well-draining mix. And for these SIP systems, the reason it's really important is that if you don't have the right type of soil, you're not going to be wicking the moisture up from the bottom. You're not going to wick it up as quickly and efficiently if you use the wrong soil mixture. So you don't have to use exactly my mix, but if you look at it, the ingredients in the mix, the critical parts are the perlite, the bark chips, the small bark chips are hard to get a hold of. You could replace that all with perlite if you choose to. So that's basically it. It's not hard to make. You know, you just drill a few holes, you cut your pipe, and now this thing works so nice because I have my trees in here, and some of my trees are 6-7 foot high, and now I could wheel this in and out of the garage during the cold weather. And it's great during the shuffle. Those of you that grow figs, you know what I mean by the shuffle, where you bring the tree in and out of the garage during the spring and the fall just so you can extend your season. Okay, so now I want to talk a little more about how to fill the water and how to use the fertilizer. And I'm just taking the liner out so I could better show you how this system works, as simple as it is. Obviously, this is the fill hole. This is where the water goes in. So you're going to fill this reservoir up, because the water is going to come right to where this pipe is, obviously. And it's going to overflow through this overflow pipe that we put in. So as you fill this up, it can only get as high as this pipe. And it's designed to work that way so that the tree or plant or whatever you have in here is never sitting down in that water. So again, you fill the water up, and you want to keep an eye on the drainage pipe as you're doing that. The reason you want to watch this drainage pipe is that you don't want a lot of water flushing out of here. You want to put just enough in here so that you just see it start to drip. And the reason that's important is because this reservoir now becomes the nutrient or the stomach of the system for your plant. In other words, you want your nutrients to stay in there so the plant could use it. If you put a lot of water in here and you flush it through, you're flushing all your nutrients out of that pipe. So this is another advantage of using one of these SIP tanks or pots and using it this way, is that if you just have your plant in a regular pot and you water it and you overwater it, which is fine if it drains through, if it's a well-draining pot, what happens is you're always draining all your nutrients out. Your expensive nutrients are getting drained out of here. So again, that's why you fill it up just so you see it come out. Now you're going to fertilize this plant just like you normally would. You stay on your same fertilizing schedule. You'll get a feel for it as you look at your plant. As you know, you got to look at your plant, see how it's doing to know when to fertilize and what kind of fertilizers you need. So you would just add your fertilizer right into the soil. Some people put it right in the drainage pipe. I like to put my fertilizers right on the soil. They're going to make their way down in the soil, and eventually they'll end up in the reservoir to some degree. And then if you don't overfill, they'll stay in there. Another thing I do is I never use tap water in any of my plants. And I don't want this video to get too long for you. Maybe I'll explain it in a different video. But when you use organic fertilizers, like granular or solid fertilizers, those fertilizers are not readily used by the plant. They need to break down first. And if you use tap water that has chlorine in it, what happens is the chlorine will kill some of the bacteria that's in the soil. And the purpose of the bacteria in the soil is to break down that fertilizer you put in. So again, I use either tap water, or I actually bought a filter for my spigot outside so it filters out the chlorine. And then I always use water that doesn't have chlorine in it. Another thing that you can do if you don't want to buy a special filter is I always have usually like a dozen buckets filled up with water. If you fill your buckets up with tap water and you leave them overnight, After 24 hours, most of the chlorine's gone. And then you could use that to feed your plants. Okay, so that's about it. If you have any questions, please send me a message. I'll answer the best I can. So remember, let's get figgy. Have fun with your gardening. I'll see you again soon.